Welcome back to State of the Association. As always, I'm your host, Nash Roberts, and here today we are going to talk about Monday Night Football. My birthday episode is going to come out in the coming days. We're going to try to bring some friends on. And, of course, I did my Sunday night recap if you want to go look at that already. But we're here to talk about the Bills-Jags game and the Cincinnati Bengals versus the Washington Commanders. As always, thank you for tuning in. Game in a second because I think there's more talking points to get with that one. So we'll start off with talking about the Bills versus the Jaguars. The Bills look great this year. And this was a team that had some doubt creeping in on them. You know, they lost Stephon Diggs. They lost a lot of key veterans. And the consensus was, I don't know if this is a playoff team. I thought they were. I thought they were going to be solid. But a lot of the media, a lot of the just fan base of the NFL, they kind of thought, hey, this is a little bit of a reset year for the Bills. But they proved everyone wrong. Josh Allen has looked great. And the Bills have just been a very well-functioning offense. I was kind of worried about them not having a true number one wide receiver. Shakir just had a great game for them. Maybe he could step into that role. The Bills look great, and I think that's going to continue. They dominated the Jaguars in this game. And, you know, their defense as well, they lost Tre'Davious White, which is also something I thought would affect them a lot more than it has. So shout out to the Bills for being able to keep up. You know, despite the losses of guys like Tre'Davious White, Stephon Diggs, they look as good as ever, if not better. And Josh Allen is really making the slow start that they've had. Has to be a little bit of humbling for them because this is a team they paid Trevor Lawrence all that money, and that's okay because, you know, you have this quarterback that has all the talent in the world. You want to keep him because there's not a guarantee you're going to find someone better than Trevor Lawrence. Could you find someone better? Sure. But right now, you know, he's not putting up the best production, but he has the potential to be something a lot greater, and he was a very hyped-up prospect coming out of Clemson. But the Jaguars refuse to go all in. You know, there's not an amazing wide receiver on that team in terms of where they are in their careers right now. You know, they brought in Gabe Davis, who he was good for sure with Buffalo, but he was very inconsistent. And overall, you haven't surrounded Trevor Lawrence with the best tools possible to succeed. Travis Etienne, at times, you know, he can kind of be – his value on the game kind of depends on if he gets a touchdown or not. I had him in fantasy last year, I know. And fantasy isn't everything, right? Because you can kind of look at points, and that's not the same as a player's value. But for Travis Etienne, it kind of shows, you know, he might not get a lot of yards. And so with that, he doesn't really alter the game unless he's able to put 6 on the board. So for the Jaguars, I think you just need to not settle for mediocrity. You need to go out and get some weapons for your quarterback who's supposed to be a generational prospect, and you just need to go all in on the Trevor Lawrence era. Other game, the Bengals are off to a very slow start, much like the Jaguars. Man, and usually I want to say that they'll be all right because the Bengals have got off to slow starts in the past. But typically it's not 0-3. It might be 0-2, but not 0-3. And the Bengals, Jamar Chase had a real good game. Joe Burrow had a good game. This one, I think, comes down to the strength of the opponent. I think Washington has been a really solid team to this point, so I can't knock them too much for that. But the Bengals, you know, these slow starts under the Zach Taylor era, something's got to change because that leaves you with very little margin for error throughout the rest of the season. You can't be losing many more games when you start out like this and still hope to make the playoffs and still hope to make a deep run because, you know, even if you make the playoffs, now your team's exhausted because they've been working so hard to even get there. And now, you know, you're not going to have much of a chance in the playoffs because your whole team's fatigued. Maybe they're injured. So for the Bengals, I think maybe it has to do with coaching because, you know, Zach Taylor era, these slow starts have kind of just happened with that. So maybe it's a coaching change. Maybe it's a culture change. But something needs to happen for the Bengals because these slow starts are never going to lead here. Is, of course, the Washington Commanders. And they've really surprised me to start out the year going out with a 2-1 record. Now, there were people before the season coming out and saying, hey, I think the Commanders have what it takes to be a sneaky good team this year. And for the most part, I didn't really agree with it because, you know, you can have really solid individual players on your team, but it's how they work as a whole that really makes it matter. I've had that mistake with looking at teams, especially in the NBA, a team like the Nets, who they don't have a very good team, but I like some of the guys on there, you know, like Dennis Schroeder, I think is a solid player. Cam Thomas, I think, has potential to be a really good scorer in this league. You know, they've got guys who you want to root for and who you value and who you think are really good individually, but it doesn't work as a cohesive unit. And the same way in the NFL, I consider the Titans to not be a bottom-tier team, but they absolutely are. Shout out to the one person in the comments holding me accountable on my last Titans video about Will Levis. But, you know, in general, I just didn't think that the cohesion of that unit. I like the addition of Jayden Daniels. I like some of the moves that they made. But overall, I didn't think Washington would be that good of a team this year. And in a couple of years, yeah, we could have those talks, but they've got off to a real good start. Their only loss came against Tampa Bay, who has also been a really good team, and I think that's acceptable. Jayden Daniels also showed some flashes in the Week 1 game, and they put up 20 points on a solid Bucs defense. So the Commanders are really good. I don't know that they'll make the playoffs, but they're going to upset some teams for sure, and they already have. So good for Washington, and they're going to be a fun team to watch this year. And in the coming years, they'll have more time to grow together, show chemistry. Jayden Daniels is only going to get better, and this team is going to be really fun to watch. And they could be right in the running for the NFC East, along with the Philadelphia Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys. For today's episode of State of the Association, as always, I'm your host, Nash Roberts. Thank you for listening.